there, welcome, welcome. Come right on in, friends. This is Homekeepers. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope that you'll just stay with us for the next few minutes. I always pray that the Lord will give us new viewers. I believe He does. If you're a new one, I just want you to feel welcome. Come right on in and sit down, have a cup of tea with me. That would be so great. But we'll have to use this method for now, and I never want to forget those wonderful regular viewers ever. So we are here for a purpose, and that is to give you a lot of encouragement. If you have not received the Lord, I hope you will. And we bring people on who have had such amazing experiences with the Lord, and we also educate you on education. Heidi Janssen comes on once a month to talk to you and tell you about Common Core. We have a psychologist, Dr. Clark, who comes on once a month to kind of help you with your marriage. And we have a health expert, and that is Deborah Ray. And then we also have a manager of a Christian bookstore that lets you know what's out there. So we just have this huge variety of just information we're pumping to you all the time. And I know it's getting out there because you let us know, and we do appreciate that. My guest today is certainly no exception. Her name is Helo Matzelle, and she has written a book called Helo Found Hope. I'm going to give you just a little bit of information on it. With a question, I guess. How would you feel if you were a young mother, wonderful husband, great children, wonderful parents, you're serving the Lord and all, and have a few strange symptoms, and they discover that you have a tumor on the brain the size of a golf ball. And even though you have all this support system, the fear and the terror would be overwhelming. And yet in all of this, she found hope. I want you to hear her story, and more than that, we'll be giving you her website that you can get her book. I highly recommend this book. It is so well written, and it's got such good theology weaving in and out of it. So if you need hope, this is a book that will help you reach that hope and find that hope, because the Bible talks so much about hope. I've heard that you can live 2 or 3 days without water. You can live 40 days or more without food, but you can't live 2 minutes without hope. It is such an important part of this human experience. So don't go anywhere. Stay right here. I want you to meet Helo. And I'm going to join Wanda in the kitchen. Stephanie's not here today. And it's always wonderful to have Wanda back, and you viewers let us know that you agree. We're going to make a lemonade dessert, which you will want, because you can make this a day or two ahead if you're going to have company. You can get that out of the way, put it in the freezer, and it tastes wonderful. So we'll show you how to do that. And before I join her, I again want to offer you a book by a guest I had, Winning the Money Game. And this is a little bit different than your types of books with, where you're working out your budget and that kind of thing, which are very valuable. We've offered a lot of those. But this one takes you beyond that. It talks to you about, investing and that kind of thing from a man who knows what he's talking about. So for that gift of at least $20, plus the shipping and handling, we will be glad to get it out to you. And, this kind of investment could really change your life. I often have thought, I wish I knew a whole lot more about managing money when I was a whole lot younger. And so this can open up your eyes to a lot of possibilities. So if you use your credit card, it's 1-800-229-0059, or write to me at Homekeepers, and that address is on your screen, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758. And we'll be glad to get it out to you. And how are you today, Wanda?
I'm fantastic.
The viewers are always so glad when you just make an appearance and come back and forth.
Yeah.
They never forgot you.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
sweet.
kind of nice?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So what are we going to do?
What are you going to do? Is
I
the question.
get to play with the ice cream.
Yes. And I'll stand clear over here while you start to do that.
Do you know what we discovered, Susan and I? Oh, what a mess. You look for half a gallon of ice cream. They don't make them.
Yeah.
This is 1.5, and so we had to get
More.
2 of them. Yeah. So But you
careful.
let it melt a little bit, right?
Yes.
And then you have something. Can I lick this on TV?
You can.
It's starting out good.
That's why I said I'm letting you do that. I
Yeah.
already knew I could foresee this one coming.
Uh-oh, now I got to get this whole thing in here. Maybe it'll fall
It
out.
should come out.
Come on, tell
Squeeze
them
it.
what you're doing.
Okay, well, I just took 1.5 cups of flour and I took 3/4 cups of brown sugar. And I'm just going to mix this in a little bit. And then I took 3/4 cup of butter, cubed, and it's cold. Just like you would for a pie crust, really.
When you are going to have company, don't you like recipes that you can do ahead of time?
Oh, yes. I want to be as organized as I can because I want to enjoy them.
This is where we should have tried this out. I don't have a whole lot of...
I don't have a lot of faith in you.
No. Oh, well, I've got to plug it in.
Oh,
That'll
well,
help.
there you go. Okay, I'm good.
Actually, all this is that half gallon of vanilla ice cream, and this is lemonade concentrate, frozen, but you have to let it, of course,
Yeah.
thaw.
Let it thaw.
And tell you how much that is too. It's 12 ounces, and you're supposed to.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I've told them many times we don't have a test kitchen here.
Oh, my goodness.
We just have to let. Oh, I don't want it to go that fast.
Yeah. That's why I decided.
You remember?
I love you and everything, but I'm keeping my distance to some degree.
Remember our wonderful viewer, Mr. Keith? You've talked to him.
I have, not recently, but the last time I talked to him, he wasn't doing really well.
He gave us this mixer. He sent it, and he sent a lot of things to us.
He's a wonderful,
What a
wonderful, godly man.
But anyway, what I'm doing is only 2 ingredients. And Wanda, after you get that put together, don't you put a layer in and bake it?
Well, yeah, what I'm
Yeah.
going to do is I'm just going to spray this. And when I get this just a little more mealy, I'm going to add the pecans to it. And then I'm just going to lay this all out. And what you're going to do is you're going to bake it on 375 for about, well, Susan said she did it for 4 minutes. So the directions say 9 to 12 minutes, but you want it to be brown. And you have to stir it one time.
And then you let it cool a little bit.
Yes, you do. You have to let it cool for about 10 minutes.
Okay, now you can pretty much imagine how this tastes. And then when you add that crumble
Yes, and
crust to it, whatever you call it.
and I think what I was thinking in my mind is I have this concept of always doing a pie crust and patting it in there, but it's not. You just leave it crumbly, and I'm like,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
see? Hello. She thought the same thing I did.
Yeah.
So we're going to just put this in here.
Do you know what else? These kind of recipes, if you're like having 4 people, put this in 4 sherbet glasses and put that on top and put it in the freezer,
Yep,
and you're done.
you are.
Okay. Well, we got a mess over here, but I'm going to show you the one that we made, and it's been in the freezer all night. But you're supposed to bring it out a little bit ahead so that it won't be too hard. Oh, this is right. This is
right?
Uh-huh.
There is a knife here. Might help you to use that knife.
Well, yeah, because you can feel the crust at the bottom.
Yes.
Why don't you lift it out?
Don't trust
I'm
yourself.
always spilling things.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if I just popped it right out and gave it to the camera guy?
Yeah.
Served it right at his feet.
Oh,
there you go.
come on. You don't even need to taste this. You know it's good.
Like it?
There are no words.
Well,
That's what you need. You know, treat your family with it, or be sure and have it, you know, when you have a guest, they are going to be so impressed. So, the information's coming up on your screen, but if you want this, it's absolutely free. Email us. We'll email it right back. Or if you don't have a computer, write to us. We'll be glad to get it to you. This is really one you want in your recipe library. I promise you. Stay with me. I want you to meet Helo. You're going to love her.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
All right, ever since I got a hold of this book, I've been looking forward to introducing Helo to the Homekeepers audience. Welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Arthelene. It's beautiful.
Well, you look good. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
You were born in Holland.
Yes.
Do you remember that, or you've been a U.S. citizen most of your life?
Yeah, I was only 3 months old when I was
No,
born.
you don't remember
So
that.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that. You attended college, and you had a career with Bristol Myers, correct?
Bristol Myers Squibb is a pharmaceutical rep where I called on physicians and nurses and their staff.
And but you became a stay-at-home mom.
Yes, I did.
And we love to minister to those. There's a lot of them out there. We're going to get into your story, but what was it that compelled you to write the book?
There were private moments between me and God. I would write down thoughts of discouragement and ask Him to turn them into courage, turn doubt into trust, and He amazed me every time I inscripted those words.
One thing that stood out in your book was the wonderful support system you had. And my heart's cry would be for everybody to have that, you know.
I'm blessed.
Like they say, when you know the Lord, and you had these people around you who knew the Lord. And you had 3 children at the time. How old were they?
They were 18, 15, and 12.
And I can only imagine, to receive the diagnosis you did, you would say, Lord, this is the worst time for me to have to leave and go to heaven. I know heaven's nice, but
Yeah, it was very frightening. I wasn't afraid of where I would go. I knew that, you know, Jesus would cradle me in His arms. I was afraid of who would love my husband, who would adore my children, and on a smaller scale, who would run the household.
All right. As I mentioned at the top of the show, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor the size of a golf. That is so big to be under your skull, and
Yeah.
it must have been tremendous pressure. But surprising to me were the symptoms. Tell us what they were, and I guess why they were kind of easy to ignore.
Well, the primary symptom that I had was ringing in my ear, and that's the one that pulled me into the doctor's office.
Ringing in the ear.
Ringing in the ear, which 50 million Americans, you know, suffer from, so I didn't think all that much of it. I had other symptoms. In hindsight, I would have paid more attention to them. I shared them with my husband. He said, I'm not a doctor. I shared them with my dad, and he said, well, you're a type A triple busy mom. And
Your dad is a doctor.
he's a retired rehabilitation physician. The odd symptoms that I had where I would hear voices in my head, and I'd try to, is this Pride and Prejudice? What movie am I thinking of? And then it would stop. The voice would stop.
Actual voice?
Yeah. And then I'd have a very brief metallic taste in my mouth, and I'd feel like I would faint, but I never did. Now, I was in a building that was painted often, so I attributed those odd sensations to part, and there are children running around. So I thought, this is so strange, no one will believe me. And I learned later from my neurosurgeon that those were auditory hallucination seizures.
And the ringing in the ear, who sent you to the doctor, really had nothing to do with.
No.
So that was God's way of.
God's way of
Getting you
pulling me
there.
in front of the physician. I went to see my ear, nose, and throat doctor, and we learned that I'd lost 50% of the hearing in my right ear. It was masked by the ringing. And he said, let's order a dye contrast study on your ear for a treatable concern. I said, it's a busy weekend, I've got things to do. Can we get the results right away? So I sat in a busy waiting room, pulling together my to-do list, and the nurse called me back. And I walked back, and now there were 2 doctors instead of 1.
Did you know then there's something?
I was puzzled by the 2 physicians in the room. And my doctor looked at me. We've known each other for over a decade. He said, Helo, sit down. This has nothing to do with your ear. You have a tumor the size of a golf ball lying over the main artery in your brain. my to-do list dropped to the floor.
Yeah, is there any way you can describe? I would think it would just be a Niagara of emotions coming from everywhere, every
Yeah.
subject.
You know, at that point I said, please get my dad on the phone because I have a feeling you're going to say things I won't understand. So now there are 3 doctors in the room, my dad on the phone and the 2 others. I've never felt more alone and yet more held on to by Jesus. I said, God, hold on to me tight and do not let go. And he didn't.
Because, you know, with this wonderful Christian family, the rain falls on the just and the unjust.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's up to us to fire a lot of questions that
No.
you look and say, okay, Lord, what do you have?
Yeah, what is your plan? And I remember when I got home, my husband took me by the hand, walked me upstairs, said, Helo, let's pray. And I was in shock. I could hardly whisper. So I said, God, please make something beautiful out of this.
You know, Helo, I think your family, they were, and you were always contacting God through this. I think that even some we believe are really devout, strong Christians, they don't access that going through it like you did.
No.
I pretty much know the church world.
Yeah.
And it seemed like with you, there was somebody always calling out on God and getting the next step. Now, they performed surgery, and she describes it in this book. We're going to put your website up, and we'll leave it up for the rest of the program. And like I said at the top of the program, I've read hundreds of books for this program and got a lot out of every one of them. But this book is a little bit different. I want you to think about that. And you gave us a little bit of an education on brain surgery. I thought, I don't want to see this, but then you explained how the chips and the dust, was it called, from the skull?
I learned how fearfully and intricately we are made. They actually, when they saw the skull open, they saved...
They saw it. Oh,
They saw it open.
gives me the creeps.
Me too. But they saved the sawdust. And then after the surgery is complete, they sprinkle back in the sawdust. Now, only God could create a healing, component like that. And it helped the skull heal.
It's just unbelievable. Another thing that I even called a colleague in my office and I said, I guess before they sew you up or whatever, they say, okay, do we have all the sponges and all the needles? I thought, oh my goodness.
They don't want to leave anything in there that doesn't belong there.
I have heard of them leaving sponges, but certainly not in a brain.
No,
Come on.
wouldn't want it there. No.
It is an insight, though. Thank God for all the precise things. And basically, it was pretty much a success.
Yes, it was. I was blessed because, and so was my family. My neurosurgeon brought me to right after surgery. Oftentimes, doctors after a serious surgery like this will give the patient 24 hours of rest. He wanted to make sure that no significant damage had been caused and asked me, what was my name? I said, Helo, how old are you? I don't know. And I don't remember any of that, but it gave my family assurances.
But you gave the right answers, I believe.
I did, except for my age.
Yeah, well, that's a given.
It's all
Even
right.
when you're in a coma.
Exactly.
Okay, so it was looking good. Thought you'd go home within a week. Then what happened?
Out of diagnosed tumors, mine was 1 in 2 million. It had a nasty trait. You touch it, it's like touching poison ivy. So when doctors went in to extract it, my brain swelled and I became non-responsive.
And it was what we would call a coma, right?
Yeah, at first they put me in a drug-induced coma and then I slipped into my own. So my projected stay of 6 days turned into 8 weeks.
Do you remember anything during that time?
I don't remember the ICU stay. It's a blessing that I didn't. I can only grasp what it was like for my husband and family to come in and see me. I know after talking to him, we have a beautiful marriage. I asked him one day, what was that like? And he would try to kiss my cheek every day, but I had 40 wires and tubes sustaining my life. It's hard to reach a cheek. And he would talk to me every single day and say, Helo, I love you, and I didn't respond. That's a unique conversation for a husband and wife to have, but I'm blessed to tell you that I more than made up for it.
Well, how long till you came out of it and you realized, I can't walk anymore, I can't,
I was in the ICU.
Did you have to learn to talk again?
I had to learn how to do virtually everything over again. It was about 2.5 weeks in the ICU. At one point, I motioned to my sister-in-law that I wanted to write something. I was intubated. You can't talk with a tube in your mouth. So she handed me a yellow pad and pen, and it took me 5 minutes, and I wrote, "God is amazing." That moves me to this day.
It moves me sitting here for sure. And that's what stood out to me in this book, is this story that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. There's no question about your story, but how you wove God in and out of this, and because the Bible says He is a very present help in time of trouble.
I've learned to weave Him into every portion of my day, and it's not cliche to say that makes life beautiful.
I just would like to see all Christians, including myself, really grasp onto that truth that He is there.
All the time.
He is there, and so often ignored.
Yeah.
Now, how quickly did the walking and the talking come back? Because there was some real frustration from time to time.
Yes, there was. There's nothing like working with a brain that has no idea how to communicate with the rest of your body. And I was in the hospital after the ICU for 5 weeks in inpatient rehabilitation, learning how to walk, talk, eat, and think all over again. And that was quite challenging, to say the least. And after that, I returned home to 20 weeks of rehabilitation, continuing that journey and challenged.
Yeah, how does that work? Can you describe what they do with an adult who used to walk? How do they?
I can give a couple examples. Like, I'm in the hospital, and I'm sitting on top of the couch, the bed, and I'm a floppy Raggedy Ann doll. And I have a physical therapist on one side and my husband on the other, and they say stand. I knew what it meant to stand, but I couldn't do it.
Your brain couldn't
communicate.
Get the message.
Couldn't get the message. And so I try to stand and, Helo, take a step. I can't. And that's when I'd cry out to God, help me walk again. I have a family to go home to. They'd show me a picture of an apple on a postcard. Helo, what is it? I knew what it was, but I couldn't make my mouth say it. Then when I returned home, it continued. Relearning everything is difficult.
Yeah, I've read about patients with ALS, and they're in there 100%, but the communication to the rest of their body is broken down.
Yeah.
I suppose to say that's frustrating is the understatement of the decade.
Yeah, one therapy that ended up being beautiful, I would sit at the piano, and at one point I had memorized Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. But I would sit at the piano and I'd read the notes. I couldn't make my fingers play them. And my dad, who adores me and I love him back, said, this is the best therapy for you, Helo. Keep at it. And one day I sat there and I started with prayer. Jesus, help me. Take this. And I sat at the piano, and one day, I've never written music before, but a portion of it goes, angels, hold on tight. Tell me everything will be all right. Tell me if I stay or when I go, God has my soul.
Oh, that is beautiful. Did you put music to it?
Yes, I did. I can play it for you after.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We're going to run out of time here, and this is a big story, so I suggest you get the book. The information's on the screen. I'm sure it's Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those places. Yes. It's called Helo Found Hope. Beautiful, beautiful title. How are you today?
I am so thankful to be alive.
Are you about 100? Are you back 100%?
I won't be back 100%, but I'm thankful for the percentage that God has given me. I tire easily, either cognitively, physically, or emotionally. I can't feel this entire portion of my face. I'll be on anti-seizure medication for the rest of my life, but my new normal is stunning in that I know what it's like now to have Jesus as my best friend.
I have a feeling that you view life as all of us should.
Yeah.
From a position of thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the knowledge of God. How is Helo different today Do you not sweat the small stuff anymore?
I'm afraid of nothing because I know that God can handle everything. And my walk with Jesus is different. The more time I spend with him, the more I get to know him. The more I get to know him, the more I fall in love with him. And the more I fall in love with him, I stand in awe.
I think it was King David, I'll have to paraphrase it, it's not memorized, but I thank God that you afflicted me. Can you say that?
I can now. I'll be honest, I couldn't say that during all of it, but I knew that God could equip me to be brave and courageous. It was not my battle to fight alone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Now, your children were at very vulnerable ages when this happened. You had a daughter in college at the time,
Yes,
right?
I did.
And the other two, I know when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and she's fine today, praise God.
Yes, amen.
But the effect on her boys,
It's difficult.
it's not anything you go through by yourself.
No. And that's when we pray and pull God into it and say, embrace us.
And you obviously have and did have a wonderful marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So many marriages fall apart during this kind of a situation.
Mm-hmm. Not mine. I love my husband more than ever. And I learned that he didn't need to be perfect, that my love from God is what is perfect.
And he was a wonderful husband.
Absolutely.
All the way
All
through
the
it.
way through, yes.
It's a wonderful book of triumph. And it's so wonderful to see how there were times of fear and frustration, but basically you relied on God the whole way.
Every step.
And he didn't let you down, did he?
Not at all. He never does.
No, he doesn't. What a story. Helo found hope. I highly recommend it. And I think it takes a relationship with God a step higher. There's just something different about this book. The walk, it wasn't just all of a sudden, here's Jesus. It was the walk. It was the intimacy with him from day one. And that's what he wants to be. That's what he wants to be to you. I sure hope you'll join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.